What is the one thing that could be truly stopping the Baltimore Ravens from making the Super Bowl this season? I know that a lot of you probably think you know what it is, and you may be right. But for me, it is one simple thing. And no, it is not the other teams vying for a Super Bowl win. First, you have the Kansas City Chiefs looking for a three-peat. Last season being the worst roster that they may have had compiled over the last 5 years, they still won a Super Bowl, and yes, they are on that quest for that elusive third straight championship. They've added a lot of pieces, and Patrick Mahomes is dead set on making history and catching Tom Brady when it comes to the number of Super Bowls. It is not that. To me, along with the Kansas City Chiefs, there may possibly be 3 other teams that legitimately are in the real Super Bowl conversation. 2 of those other teams are in the NFC with a slight possibility. You have the San Francisco 49ers, who seem to be in the hunt for a Super Bowl each and every single season. They have one of the best rosters in the NFL. They have dynamic players on offense and on defense, but the one thing that they don't have is a Super Bowl winning head coach. Kyle Shanahan has had 3 cracks at winning a Super Bowl as either a head coach or an offensive coordinator, but he just cannot seem to get it done. And with all the drama with Brandon Ayuk going on, we don't know what this roster is going to look like. Brock Purdy, from what it seems, has regressed a little bit. Now, he said that he wants to be a little more Tom Brady-ish. He wants to take more chances. I don't know if he's just using this offseason as an experiment, but he has not looked good in the 49ers practices. And personally, I just don't think that Kyle Shanahan has it in him to win a Super Bowl, but they may possibly be there in the end. The other NFC team is the Philadelphia Eagles. They were there a couple of seasons ago in the Super Bowl, which they eventually lost, and then the season after, they had a Super Bowl hangover. Last season, their offense and defense became stagnant with new coordinators and just trying to rehash the plays from the season before, and it just didn't work out. So Philadelphia went out and got 2 new coordinators, which may help things out a little bit more. They vowed to put A.J. Brown in motion and stop running the same plays, but more importantly, they have upped their defense. So Philadelphia, by all intents and purposes, are another Super Bowl contender. And the 4th team, of course, is the Baltimore Ravens. Now, we can go down the list of AFC teams. You got the Buffaloes, the Miamis, possibly the Jets if Aaron Rodgers can make a bounce-back season, C.J. Stroud and up-and-coming Houston Texans, but legitimately, realistically, there are only 4 teams that are possibly going to really be in this conversation to win the Super Bowl. And the Baltimore Ravens are number 4. I think the Baltimore Ravens are the biggest challengers to Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs when it comes to winning an NFL title. Those 2 teams open up the season in a little over 2 weeks, and we're going to kind of get a gauge as to how each other are going to play. But as we all know, if you really watch football, the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs are a totally different monster. No matter how they look in the regular season, they just seem to flip that switch and turn it on during the playoffs. So no matter if the Ravens win or lose this game, I don't think that it's going to be an indicator of what's going to happen if they meet in the postseason. So before I get into the one thing stopping the Ravens from possibly making a Super Bowl, let's talk about what they have added. They've added Derrick Henry. Yes, the former Tennessee Titan, the former All-Pro, the former 2,000-yard rushing back has been added to a rushing attack that normally leads the league in rushing behind Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson has slimmed down this season because he's like, hey, I really don't need to run the ball as much as I used to. And this is a trend that has gone on for the last few seasons. A couple of seasons ago, he was 25 pounds heavier to kind of take the brunt and burden of being hit all the time. He slimmed down a little bit, knowing he was going into Todd Monken's system, which was going to utilize the pass a little bit more, so he didn't need to be as sturdy, thinking that he wasn't going to run. And hey, you blinked and Lamar Jackson still had 800 yards to lead the team. Now knowing that he truly, for the first time in his career, has a back that can lead the way, he no longer needs that extra ball to take on the punishment because he's going to become more of a pocket passer. And this is a reason why I think that maybe, just maybe, in the second season of Todd Monken's system, that the Ravens are going to do some things, utilize the playbook a little bit more, so come playoff time, they're going to look a little more effective throwing the ball. Also on the defensive side of the ball, the Ravens have lost a few pieces. They lost to Patrick Queen, they lost to Jadeveon Clowney, they lost a Ronald Darby, but they're trying to replace them with younger, better options. This is yet to be seen because they have not yet played a regular season game, but they're hoping that they can get this production out of these guys. Odafe Owe is another year into the system. Hopefully he's going to be healthy because he is going to be counted on to lead this pass rush. They re-signed Justin Madubuike. They drafted a TJ Tampa, they drafted Nate Wiggins to bring up more talent for that third cornerback position. This season, hopefully Marcus Williams will be healthy for a full season, and you know what Kyle Hamilton's going to bring: another year under his belt, another year of experience, another year of learning, and I'm sure he's going to be an All-Pro and a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. So you take a defense that was number one in the league in points scored against, and you add youth, you add speed, you bring in a new defensive coordinator and some defensive assistants. Hopefully the core base of the defense will stay the same, but hopefully they'll bring in some wrinkles that confuse this team. So now going into the season, teams can't look at last year and see what the Ravens did and say, okay, I'm going to scheme for that, because they don't know what Zach Orr is going to bring to the table. You couple that great defense with a hopefully unstoppable run game, because even though Lamar has slimmed down, let's not get it twisted. Lamar can take off and be gone in the blink of an eye. And with the lost weight, they have said, and he said that he seems to be a bit faster. He's saying he has more energy. He's not getting tired as much. So what are you going to do? You pick your poison. You have Derrick Henry, you have Lamar Jackson. Which one are you going to try and tackle? Are you going after the Lightning, or are you going after the Thunder?
Hey, remember your friend, Mr. Thunder? How about his buddy, Mr. Lightning? Oh, I know you know him. You know him real well, don't you?
Either way, it's going to be a tough situation. So we're just looking at this passing attack coupled with this run game as to one of the reasons why the Ravens are going to be a lot better. But now we have to get into why the one reason that the Ravens may possibly not make it or actually win the Super Bowl. And that one reason is crystal clear. And I think that most of you all know what this reason is. And it's the uncertainty of the offensive line. The Ravens let John Simpson and Kevin Zeitler go via free agency, and they traded Morgan Moses to the New York Jets in the hopes of bringing in younger, more athletic offensive linemen to kind of fit Todd Monken's scheme. Now, while I do understand what they're trying to do, this may actually come back to bite us in the butt. Plain and simple. We don't know what we're going to get. We're already going to be behind the 8 ball because as a whole, as an organization, John Harbaugh does not play his starters in the preseason. So collectively, we are not going to see this offensive line gel in a game against real competition. Now, they do have a joint practice versus the Green Bay Packers before they play them on Saturday, but is that one joint practice going to be enough? Because going against teammates is a whole different animal to me. Practicing against the same people day in and day out, to me, yes, you can get better and iron sharpens iron, but you're only going to get certain looks. And heading into week 3 of the preseason, we still don't know who our starting left guard is, who our starting right guard is, and who our starting right tackle is. And if Tyler Linderbaum is out for an extensive period of time, what are we going to do at center? Through the first 2 preseason games, the run blocking is not up to par. Pass blocking, you know, it's hard to say. It's preseason, vanilla, trying to get your legs up under you. It's pretty hard. I get that. But how do you go from playing backups to playing legitimate superstars, especially in the AFC North? The pass rushers that the Ravens have to deal with in the AFC North. You have Watt and Highsmith in Pittsburgh. You have Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati. You have Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith in Cleveland. And that's just in our division alone. And then you go into the first game and you're going up against Chris Jones. And unfortunately for the rest of the league, the Kansas City Chiefs have become a defensive powerhouse. Like, they were number 2 in the league last season, right behind the Baltimore Ravens when it came to certain statistics. So yes, the Ravens may be able to hold teams to 13 points or less, but is this offense going to be able to score? Now, we are possibly going to get a clearer picture after this week. Don't know, because what's going to happen is cut down day is not like it used to be where you had to get down to 93, then you had to get down to the 53-man roster. Now it's pretty much you cut everybody you need to cut in one fell swoop. So are the Ravens going to be able to get up that Sunday morning and go down to the Goodwill and pick through what's left over and kind of piece together this offensive line? And that still doesn't bode well, even if they do pick up a player that may be a little bit decent. Now, he has to come to a brand new system, learn different terminology, gel with his teammates, and this is all right before week 1. Yes, they get a little over a week to prepare, but to me, that is not good business. Waiting on players to get cut, hoping and praying that someone is available that fits your system and is going to make your team better. We said this with the June 1st cuts, and this is all the stuff that was flooded in and out of my comments. Oh, don't worry about the offensive line. We have June 1st cuts, and when somebody gets cut, the Ravens are going to swoop in and pick them up. Well, here we sit, August the 21st, and those June 1st cuts didn't happen. Nobody became available that was worth taking a flyer on. Now, I read an article yesterday saying, oh, everybody's complaining and worried about the offensive line, but who's left out there for the Ravens to pick up? And I thought to myself, it's not the right attitude to have. It's not the who's left out there to pick up. That right attitude to have would have been who was available at the start of free agency that you could have brought in way back when. Don't wait until everybody gets signed and then say, well, what are we going to do now? Because there have been opportunities for the Ravens to bring in a bevy of guards to come in and secure this position. Now, hopefully, Roger Rosengarten comes in, takes over that right tackle spot, and at least plays average ball. Don't need him to be a standout, don't need him to be a superstar. And of course, I'm going to get the comments of, well, just let them develop. Let's wait for them to develop and see what happens then. We don't have time to wait for people to develop. We've been waiting for a wide receiver core to develop for the last 4 years. It still hasn't happened. We're still going into a season with one legitimate starter and a bunch of question marks. So now we're going to go wide receiver question marks, offensive line question marks. And what if they don't pan out? Another season wasted. This is the NFL. There is so much uncertainty going on when it comes to players, their health, team schematics, schedules, like all of these things factor in. So to say, let's wait and see, we've been waiting. And we've been seeing that certain things just aren't panning out for this team. So it may even actually come down to Eric DeCosta parting with one of his beloved draft picks. One of the draft picks that we could have used to acquire anybody. Because to be quite honest right now, it's looking like Devin Leary wasn't a need. Rasheen Ali at this point may have been a wasted pick. Samac. I mean, these are players that are going to sit at the end of the depth chart, may not play, may not make the team, which could have been used to go somewhere else. This is why we say trade these picks. The Rams went all in, F them picks. And I'm not saying go super hard and do what they did, but give up something to get something. We cannot keep this redundancy going of drafting players that don't work out. Then we have to look in free agency and wait for other teams to cut people to come in and do this job. The Ravens' time is now. To be quite honest, we should have been won a Super Bowl. But offensively, we tried to scrimp and save and cut corners, and it has not worked out. And yet and still, we keep hearing,
well, we can get this person on the cheap.
Going cheap on offense is not working. Now, we don't have the issues that some other teams have, having to worry about their star wide receivers sitting out or their star offensive linemen wanting more money. We don't have to worry about these things. And yes, we are in the same boat as a lot of these teams that need to pay these wide receivers, or some of these teams that have paid these wide receivers. Yeah, we're sitting even. We've not won a championship. They've not won a championship. But the thing that I don't think that people look at is there is one difference between us and, let's say, a Minnesota Vikings with Justin Jefferson, a Miami Dolphins team with Tyreek Hill, a Vegas Raiders team with Devontae Adams. There is one key difference between us and those teams. Those teams don't have Lamar Jackson. Kirk Cousins was decent. Vegas got their problems. Tua is serviceable, but they don't have Lamar Jackson. So imagine with our defense what Lamar could do with those wide receivers. Imagine what Lamar could do with certain type of protection that other teams get that Lamar's not getting, and he hasn't gotten it for a few years now. And yet and still he produces magic. We saw 2019, average wide receiving core, great offensive line. Yes, tripped up in the playoffs, but you saw how dominant the Ravens were. The Ravens were dominant last year, but the Ravens offensively were dominant in the 2019 season, and it all started with protection. So to me, at least, protecting Lamar is the key to getting the Ravens to the Super Bowl. And the failure to protect Lamar will be the reason that the Ravens actually go home early or maybe not make the playoffs at all if they don't get this right. 2021, 2022, bad offensive line play got Lamar injured, point blank period. And it may not have been on one play. When he got hurt in Cleveland, it may not have been that one play that actually hurt him. It may have collectively been him getting hit throughout the season, and that was just the final blow. Now that hit in Denver in 2022, yeah, offensive line blew it, and that linebacker just came in and just engulfed Lamar, and then he became injured. Why can't we see, or why can't some of us at least see, you gotta protect your assets? No other team in the NFL with a franchise superstar quarterback is running a team out there with average wide receiver play and possibly 3 first-year starters on an offensive line. Think about that. 3 first-year players. I don't care how good they're going to be. I don't care how good they are this year. It's the simple fact that we are taking a chance. And I think this is what hurts me more is they're betting their future. They're betting Lamar's health on guys that they believe, or that at least what they say in the media is, oh, they're looking good. Possibly. We don't know yet. So I'm not knocking these guys. They're doing what they're supposed to do. You drafted me, you're asking me to play. I'm giving you the best that I got. But are the Ravens giving Lamar the best that they have when it comes to protecting him? Derrick Henry in the run game is going to be great, but it's not going to stop pass rushers from teeing off on Lamar if these guys can't get it together. And for me, bringing in guys that have experience makes a hell of a lot of a difference, especially when you're not playing together. If I've been on a team, if I'm a 6-7 year veteran and I played on different teams with different guys, all right, I know certain things to expect. I know certain things to look for. Bringing in possibly 3 first-year guys, and not take nothing away from Linderbaugh, but this is his 3rd year, and you're putting inexperience all around him. So that's going to put more pressure on him, and this is what leads to injuries. Players trying to overcompensate for what their teammates or the guy next to him isn't doing because they're unfamiliar with a situation, or they don't know their read. They don't know who to block. So for this, and this reason only, may be what derails the Baltimore Ravens from making a Super Bowl. Let me know in the comments what you think, because you're going to do it anyway.
Nah, man, I'm cool.